Okay, guys, so let's move this thing forward here. I'm going to try to get this guy in here. I have some brains. I need a fork. That's what I need. Today, we're going to talk more about the neurological system, and we're going to get into the cerebrum and brains. So here we have, let me pull this out. So we're going to have to use this later. There's your brains. This is not your brains. This is my brains. Not my brains. This is the brains of half the brains of this guy. So if we actually take that, we tear it all apart, we're going to see this is the outside. This would be the frontal lobe. This is the parietal lobe. This is the occipital lobe. This is called the cerebellum. It looks like a ball of yarn. This is for proprioception. We'll talk about that later. This one in through here is called the temporal lobe. And in through here on the inside, in there is called the insula. Now, to get things more detailed on this, these lumpy bumps, okay, out here, this open spot, or like the higher spot there, is called a gyrus or gyri. Okay, gyrus is single, gyri is plural. On the inside is a sulcus, okay, or sulci. Now, those, what they look like, what they do is they go like this. Beep. Okay, let's do a little like drawing like this. So this is the gyri up here, and this is the sulci down here. And what happens is, in areas of the brain, we did a little question thing before where this frontal lobe is upper thinking, and in through here is sensory and motor, and back through here is visual, and in through here is hearing and some speech stuff, and things like that. Those are not written in the stone. It's not super precise. There's a lot of variation in people, and there's a lot of interconnection in people. And one of the things we see is that someone who has this area of the brain, for example, is not well developed. Those sulci are more shallow. Okay? As we develop something in that area of brain function, the sulci get deeper, and maybe even these get closer together. So there's not like, every brain is not the same. Okay, they're pretty different. It was considered they were all the same. They didn't know, there's some major fissures and stuff like there, like the central fissure on the side, and then there's the, in between there's the hemispheres and all this kind of stuff. So, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the coverings of the brain. The coverings of the brain are called the meninges. We'll put that right here, meninges. And the meninges are the covering of the inside of the skull. Okay, here's the inside. Just take the top off the skull. Oops, take the top off the skull. And we have in here remember the periosteum on the outside, that fibrous covering? On the inside we have like an endosteum. And for this one it would be called the dura mater. Okay, dura, D-U-R-A, and M-A-T-E-R. Okay, dura, which means durable or tough, and mater, which means mother, like mater and pater. Okay, mater means mother. This is the tough mother. And it's really tough on the outside. It's leathery. It's a covering of the outside of the brain. It doesn't touch the brain, but it encapsulates the brain and the spinal cord all the way down to the bottom. And we didn't really go over the spinal cord too much, which we're going to have to later because of the spinal cord and the vertebral column. But the spinal cord only goes down to about the level of L1. And then it comes to what's a terminus called the conus medullaris. And then at the end of that is the filum terminale, which is the end, the last fiber, basically. And then that branches off from those areas in the lumbar, that upper lumbar, in a thing called the cauda equina, which means the horse's tail. So dura mater covers all of that kind of stuff, keeps the cerebral spinal fluid on the inside. There's no blood flow in there. So the cerebral spinal fluid, remember those from the epididymal cells? Way back, go watch that video if you don't remember. That's going to be the 5 types of neurons that are in the brain, or in the nervous system. The neuroglia, as it were, the epididymal guys, right? So those make and move cerebral spinal fluid. So around the brain, we're going to redraw this a little bit. So we're going to go like this. Around the brain and the spinal cord is the dura mater. And so we have your brain, which we're going to do in blue, which I lost my blue pen. Oh, there it is. Here's your brain. Okay? Here's the cerebellum, the cerebrum. There's the temporal lobe, the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe. This comes down here through the medulla oblongata and all that stuff, the midbrain. And then we have the spinal cord. It comes like this. Has a little bulge at the bottom. Down here's a filum terminale. conus medullaris, which I'll put over here somewhere. And the whole thing is covered way out here by the dura mater, like this. And inside these ventricles in here is these little epidermal cells that make the cerebrospinal fluid, and then they paddle it along, and it flows around this way and down and through. Now, in osteopathy, osteopaths are really good at sensing that stuff. They kind of get into it, and they can feel the way the skull moves. Remember the sutures, which we talked about back in skeletal. If you have to go back and look at that one, go ahead. But the skeletal sutures, the bones, actually have some motion and they have some movement. And remember, I showed where you can feel it, you can move one if you look back at those, the skull stuff. So dura mater is the outer one. Dura, tough, mater, mother. The middle one is called the arachnoid. Arachnoid is spider, so it looks like spidery web stuff, and it's like all in between here. And this is where the cerebrospinal fluid kind of hangs out, the subdural and subarachnoid space. And then right on the brain itself, wrapped around it like saran wrap, is this stuff called the Pia Mater. Pia, as in being pious. Remember, pious is a word being close to God. That's where it comes from. The close mother, Pia Mater, Pia Mater, whatever. It's they're Latin words. So those three layers are what make up the meninges. Okay, the meninges encapsulate and protect the brain and the spinal cord, the central nervous system. Outside of the Pia Mater is the cerebral spinal fluid, which is moved by ependymal cells and made by ependymal cells. Okay, in a place called the choroid plexus, which is up and through these sections and through here. I can't really tell you too easily because I lost half the brain. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here we have the brain in this area, and through here we have what's called the choroid plexus. And the plexus is, it's a filtrate of blood, which makes cerebral spinal fluid, and then it's pushed around by the ependymal cells. So there we go. That's the meninges. 3 parts. Today's question of the day, or side quest, which we'll put over here, is going to be what is the difference between an epidural hematoma and a subdural hematoma? Put your answer in the comments down below, just like a sentence or two, so I know that you've watched this. And then don't forget to subscribe and watch the what's it called? The other videos, which are on the playlist. Do that. This is Dr. Sean. You guys take care. Do your homework. Do your discussion boards. We'll talk to you later. I'm gonna go make some soup.